This is a response to the RE greenhouse gases video where this user attempts to respond to my initial critique of his guns and greenhouse gases video. As I formulated my response, it became rather apparent that it was going to be too long for one video, and rather than put up several videos, I will go over as much as possible in this one, and then the relevant link will be on the right side. In that, we'll delve into further details. I would like to open by saying I found it interesting that you had no comment concerning the research done on various agricultural staples and non-agricultural staples and their response to much higher levels of CO2. You said, if I remember right, if we go from 400 parts per million to 550 parts per million, it's going to be catastrophic effects. But we can harken back to my initial video response to you, where I alluded to several examples of plant life responding positively to higher levels of CO2, namely potatoes, ambient CO2 levels plus 350 parts per million. And again, they all responded positively. Higher yields, higher biomass, they were able to deal with drought conditions better. Japanese rice, ambient CO2 levels plus 200 parts per million. Northeast Colorado steppe shortgrass, ambient CO2 levels plus 300 parts per million and 360 parts per million. And barley, ambient CO2 levels plus 290 parts per million. It's helping the plants contrary to what it should be doing if you are correct, but you're not. The first comment by this user I'd like to analyze in short order, is his statement about Fred Singer and his dealings with Exxon-Mobil. This user says this doesn't mean his science is necessarily wrong, merely that we should be highly suspicious given the vast array of better qualified scientists with an opposite viewpoint. Then why did you mention it? You were, of course, trying to shoot the messenger, as it were, but I find this tactic interesting and abused over and over again by the left. For example, Roy Spencer was accused of this, and he has ably responded. I tried to do this video several times, and I kept running short, so I'll kept going over the 10-minute time limit, so I'll cut this off. But here's the gist of it. It has been commonplace for scientists like me, Roy Spencer speaking, who are skeptical of mankind's role in global warming to be branded as shills for big oil. As a result of misinformation posted at exxonsecrets.org, that's the site you parroted, I would like to set the record straight concerning my financial interests. exxonsecrets.org notes that I have given talks on global warming at conservative think tanks like the Marshall Institute, implying that I have some sort of financial relationship with them. In truth, I received no speaking fee for these talks, but I have been paid for giving talks for environmental organizations in several states. I wonder why exxonsecrets.org doesn't mention this connection to big environmentalism. After all, they are the ones who paid me speaking fees, not the Marshall Institute. After 12 years of receiving no compensation for my writings, I was eventually asked to write global warming related articles for TechCentralStation.com, now TCSDaily.com. That website advocated science, technology, and free markets, and was indeed partially funded by Exxon-Mobil. While I no longer write for that website, over a 3-year period I augmented my day job salary by an average of 5% by writing articles. The views expressed in those articles were consistent with the views I had expressed for 12 years for no compensation. All that, again, in the link on the right side, all that necessary, the rest of his quote will be up there, but Roy Spencer is not a shill for big oil. In addition, if one thinks environmental luminaries like Al Gore aren't going to profit handsomely from climate change legislation and cap and trade, you're just fooling yourself. Aside from the prospect of making big bucks off of this, Gore is a hypocrite. In 2006, Gore devoured nearly 221,000 kilowatt hours of energy, more than 20 times the national average. And this whole, I'd like to comment on this whole buying carbon credits thing. It's like a Catholic indulgence. If I use 10 times my normal amount of energy and pay, let's say, $1 for every extra kilowatt hour I use, does that really save the planet? No, it doesn't. What you need to do is actually reduce your carbon footprint. Al Gore is, it's basically a Catholic like indulgence. No offense to anyone who happens to be Catholic. It's a bunch of garbage. So if Gore actually is serious about this, he'll quit buying houseboats and quit burning up so much energy. But that's only for the peasantry like me and you. Gore doesn't have to do it. So I guess so much for that shoot the messenger argument. Gore did his Generation Investment Management, private equity fund chaired by Al Gore, acquired a 9.5% stake in Camco International Limited. It was set up by Gore and David Blood, former chief of Goldman Sachs asset management arm, and they hold 16 million Camco shares. So I think Gore is probably going to make a good amount of money off of this. Then this user says, the mechanism of global warming is not cloud-based, but carbon gas-based. Not entirely true. Cloud cover has quite a role in albedo. Some clouds amplify warming trends, and some reduce them. In fact, these climate models have yet to truly understand the role clouds play in climate change. Here are a few examples of the flaws we've seen in these general circulation models and how they deal with the role of clouds. It was learned in the Journal of Atmospheric Sciences, a publication from 2007, that the Goddard Cumulus Ensemble was off in several predictions it made concerning weather in the South China Sea during monsoon season. Two of the more interesting observations were the GCE rainfall spectrum includes a greater proportion of heavy rains than precipitation radar or the TRMM microwave imager observations. Also, the model cannot simulate the bright band and the sharp decrease of radar reflectivity above the freezing level in stratiform rain as seen from precipitation radar. And some salient points from Dr. Roy Spencer that need to be noted. Climate model representations of precipitation processes are very crude. In fact, for warm air masses, the models don't actually grow precipitation systems. They instead use simple parameterizations that are meant to represent the net effects of precipitation on the atmosphere in some statistical sense. There is nothing inherently wrong with using parameterizations to replace more complex physical processes, as long as they accurately represent what controls these processes. What we really need to know is how the efficiency of precipitation systems changes with temperature. Unfortunately, this critical understanding is still lacking. Most of the emphasis has been on getting the models to behave realistically in how they reproduce average rainfall amounts and their geographic distribution, not in how the model handles changes in rainfall efficiency with warming. Fortunately, we now have new satellite evidence which sheds light on this question. Our recently published research shows that when the middle and upper troposphere temporarily warms from enhanced rainfall activity, the precipitation systems there produce less high-altitude ice clouds. This, in turn, reduces the natural greenhouse effect of the atmosphere, allowing enhanced infrared cooling to outer space, which in turn causes falling temperatures. This is a natural negative feedback process that is counterintuitive for climate scientists, most of whom believe that more tropical rainfall activity would cause more high-level cloudiness, not less. Simply dismissing clouds, that's the end of the quote, simply dismissing clouds as having a minor cooling effect is in fact a bastardization, to use a term you used, of climate modeling. Apparently you agree with my point that climate modeling is overestimating the positive feedback coming from Australian savanna soil, yet you simply dismiss it as, dare I say, minor. Your statement rebutting my remark about less heat-trapping cirrus clouds, you were saying you didn't make this claim, which you didn't directly, but since you're hanging your hat on these climate models, yes, they have to understand what these clouds do and why they do it, or think garbage in, garbage out. If you put in bad data, you're going to get bad data. But your statement rebutting my remark about less heat-trapping cirrus clouds in the tropics certainly does apply to climate modeling. If they're not recreating the behavior and effects of these clouds accurately, then they'll get bad data. So if he responds again, I will certainly put up another video alerting you to it and add that to what I have up on my site. Again, the relevant link will be off on the right side. Have a nice day.